on this day. That while we're waiting to get on Facebook Live and do that, so we'll get up. You'll find out. Get up. Oh boy, do I have a funny way of talking it sometimes, but I guess y'all love it. Or something, I don't know. That we're getting ready to go on Facebook Live. On that, we'll do where we go live at 5, and then we'll be on the Mighty Met 1490 KMET, as we are every Monday through Friday from 5:30 to 6 p.m. on your radio dial. On that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I'm hearing something. Now that you turn on the right buttons, I can actually hear what's going on here. So we are live at 5. See, you can talk with it. I'll tell you what, though, I know I wasn't getting it. I just didn't have the headset earbuds, I should say earplugs. That's what I had was earplugs. So I didn't hear. You got to turn the on button on so you can hear. Oh, that. So we're coming in live at 5. Now we're hooked up on IE Newswire on Facebook Live on that. We're on YouTube on that. We'll be coming on 1490 KMET at the bottom of the hour at 5:30. We'll have John COUPAL coming up to start that, and then we're going to get Jack BECKMAN, winner of the Funny Car Finals out at Pomona. We were going to have him after the race last week, but he lost his voice. Maybe he got too much of that nitro burn that Stephanie got her first taste of over there at Pomona on that. I don't know how them guys take that. If you've never got a nitro burn of that, Jesse, have you ever been to the? I know the answer. No, you've never been to the drag races on that. One day you're gonna have to go in with the World Finals in October, November. If you've never experienced a nitro, you've never lived until you've experienced a nitro burn.
Nope, I haven't lived yet.
Yeah, so you have not lived yet. You have not experienced life unless you get that. Oh, I don't know if he lost his voice after that. So he's finally recovered on that. So we'll have him on too at the after the bottom of the hour on that. I'm just getting here things tuned up on that. One thing there was, and hopefully I'll get this fired up. And I didn't get to it yesterday because we had a jam-packed show of stuff going on. I mean, the news just goes crazy all up and down the line. We had that, and I haven't looked for me an update. They had those stabbings over in Paris. They had a press conference today about 2:00 at the cemetery, and then they found 3 dead bodies yesterday at the cemetery in Paris, and then one that was like a block down the road. And I don't know if they're all related or something, but I believe they were all stabbing deaths. Well, they had a press conference update, which I didn't get a hold of, so see if you can find something on that, because that, not to make slide of it, but, there's 3 dead bodies at the cemetery. They actually, found 3 guys stabbed there yesterday, and that was a big story on that, and they've got an update on that. And an update on Ryan Newman, who was upside down on fire at the end of the Daytona 500, fuel leaking out of the car. No further update from yesterday. After about an hour after the race, they said he's in serious condition with non-life-threatening injuries. They released the same basic press release with no further new information. The same thing. He's in serious condition with non-life-threatening injuries. So we wish a speedy recovery and full recovery to Ryan Newman. And as we said, and we put on there, go to IE Newswire deal and find the one that said the picture of we're all Ryan Newman fans today, because we're all wishing Godspeed and the best for Ryan Newman in his recovery, because, man, that was a nasty-looking wreck that happened right at the end of the Daytona 500 yesterday on the rain delay. Yes, we're all Ryan Newman fans tonight, today, and in the future, because there's probably no, and I can't remember who said it, but there's probably not a driver that hasn't had an issue with Ryan Newman, because he races you hard, whether he's 3 laps down or nothing. He gives no quarter, takes no quarter, doesn't make excuses, nothing else. And, he's He's one of the, I guess you would call, I mean, I would call him kind of a throwback era racer, kind of like racing used to be, where, it was none of this, none of this politically correct stuff or da 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 da. I mean, he raced hard. He expected you to race him hard. And that's just the way he was. And although, like it was said, probably every driver has had an issue with Ryan Newman. They're all Ryan Newman fans today, wishing him all the best in his recovery from the injuries he suffered at Daytona last night. Flag me when you find something out about, or see if you can find that press conference or any updated stories on that, on those stabbings on that, as I'm working on the stuff, because that's very unusual to that. Listen, some people say, well, why do you talk about the crime and the homeless problem and this? Da, da, da. We talk about it a lot because it's getting serious out there. We've ignored or shoved aside a lot of this stuff for far too long, and it's absolutely, you can't stick your head under the sand anymore, at least from my perspective. You got to get in there and we got to come up with some sensible solutions to this, like the homeless. We just can't have them all over the place. Ruining. We've all went through the drill of what's going on. Da da da. We will not survive as a society if we let this go. And really, it's not doing the ones that are sleeping under the eaves at the local shopping centers, and that our elected officials are not doing us any good by undercounting. I think they said 33 in Moreno Valley or something like that, 400 in Riverside. I mean, I can probably, at 5 o'clock in the morning, just around here, I could probably drive you in 2 blocks and probably come close to counting. It's probably at least 20. And that's just circulating that. Picking one day out of the year, and this is how they do it, or this is my understanding. They go 3 hours from like 6:30 to 9:30, and they get some volunteers, and they go and canvass the city, and that's how they determine what the homeless count is. Well, on top of that, let's get down to the brass tacks numbers of doing it, and let's start cleaning it up. I mean, Sheriff's Department's doing great. I mean, they've been busting people right and left for enforcing the law, not taking away anybody's constitutional rights or anything else. But it's, we've got to do something. But all they can do is arrest them, and then they get kicked back down. And how many times have we posted the pictures in the Sheriff's Department? A lot of them are the same people they keep arresting in that. It's time for the district attorneys. It's time for our state legislatures to get a handle. We've got to put them somewhere or do something. We cannot just be cutting and releasing all these criminals. Like Ali Missouri with his a wall of shame on his AM/PM out there in Paris, where they're just ripping people. And these stories just go on hundreds of times a day, every day, and we're not doing anything. Criminals are not afraid of the law anymore because the law has no teeth, or there's no consequence. And that's the thing is with consequences. If you're not going to have, there's no sense in writing a law if you're not going to have consequences about it. I mean, it's like it's like enforcing illegal immigration or criminal illegal aliens when they're getting released out of prison, not to, sanctuary states, not telling ICE where they're at, or hey, we're releasing them. You might want to check them out, because we went through all the deals of that on the thing, and it's going 100% on the wrong side of this whole deal. And I'm going to switch over here of this. So hit me on number 2. Am I working on 2? Okay, so we got it up on 2 on that. Yeah, it's incredulous of what we're doing on this stuff. of each and every day of coming up with, trying to create this antiseptic society where nothing is, or we're turning a blind eye, is doing none of us any good. On top of this deal, we've got to come up with some solutions to these problems. We've got to enforce the law all across the board. No way, no how. And I don't know. I mean, what is it that's, I mean, you see the pictures of people just walking by, the streets where there's homeless up there, and they're just like walking by like they don't see it. I don't know. Have we lost are we just continually just losing our fight? I mean, I just really hope we're not. But in some cases, I think we are, or I see a lot of evidence of it. I mean, we're going to talk about the school bonds and stuff with John COUPAL of, coming up, and he does a great work on that with Susan Shelley and all the ones at JARVIS Taxpayers Association. It seems like sometimes, I mean, you wonder if you're just talking or whistling Dixie into the wind. I mean, it was like at our local school board. I mean, they rolled it out there, the $15 billion school bond statewide. Oh, well, this was a discussion. Well, this is on the ballot, and it's for schools and all 5 of the 4 years. Oh, it's for the schools. We're going to support this. Really? No. And I don't even. Everybody's got a right to their opinion. Have some discussion about, well, what's this about? No. Oh, $15 billion? Okay. Well, we'll just, yeah. No discussion. We got a $22 billion statewide surplus. Why can't they just finance that stuff out of the surplus cash they have up there? Okay. But is there an update on the story on that? Like in the PE or something on that? But I'm just talking to Jesse while I'm doing this. But no, it's incredulous sometimes of what we do on this stuff. And I don't know. You tell me on some of this stuff if we're going haywire, or have you just given up? I mean, you see the mass exodus of the declining population, the net migration out of the 50 states, and even now looks like we're even going to start backing up on population in 2020 in California. Even immigration is not going to keep increasing the population. We might even be losing a congressional seat, because this is a year, they're taking the census that they do every 10 years, and that's how they apportion congressional seats up and down the line. And, we first time probably ever, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think California has ever lost or went minus on congressional seats in the House of Representatives. And this might be the first time that we actually lose a seat, because the rest of the population is growing faster than we are, which was never the case. It's just more of that evidence of what's really going on, of people just not having the tolerance of doing this stuff of on and on. So I don't know. You tell me. Sometimes it's you hear that, or you hear, oh yeah, we agree with you, but when are we going to get some collective action that's actually going to have some teeth? I mean, I hope, I don't know, but I hope we will vote down the school bonds, the 50% bond on the because it only takes 50% plus 1 to pass the $15 billion one, 55% to pass the RCC one. I think they have one in Valverde and a couple others around of school bonds coming up. And like we said, in some cases there is a need, and I'm not knee-jerk 100% opposed to financing it, as long as they are building classrooms that are going to last 30-plus years with money that they're borrowing for 30-plus years. But if they're leasing Chromebooks for 3 years, or doing repairs or general maintenance and financing it for 30 years, as we talked with Cliff Cummings yesterday, owner of Toyota San Bernardino, and John COUPAL, and most any sound economist, accountant will tell you, if you're doing that, you're paying, you're on the road to financial suicide on this stuff. And that's a 100%, it's 100% way to financial ruin. If you're financing short-term needs with long-term debt, you are eventually going to go down the tubes on that. So that's so we do have a phone. Who's on the phone?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I just talked to you about Ryan.
Oh, is there an update?
Well, he's talking, and they got him, and he's responding and everything. So that's at least he's conscious now. But
okay.
They say he's still in serious condition.
Right.
So if you saw, I slowed the whole motion down in the car.
Right.
And the top bar up there by the roof has been in at least a good foot.
Ooh.
And
you mean the bar that would be right up above your head, that would be like the top of the window in your car that goes across?
In about a foot all the way across there. And the only thing good, you know how the new seats are where you're padded around your head. So probably that's what saved his head. If it had been back in the days when I was he'd be dead. There was no protection.
Yes, there was and they did that, and we talked about it a little bit, and after the death of Dale Earnhardt at Daytona in 2001, they started studying that, and back in the day, you don't recall how much you moved in the. I mean, it was nothing like you would move a foot, and what would seem to be from the stands just a brush up against the wall. And I mean, the driver's moving like 6 or 8 inches around in there and stuff. And I mean, the incredible amount of forces. Most people don't know that, but in a hard impact of that, if a 45 mile an hour speed differential crash, in milliseconds, your body can withstand 1,500 Gs.
Well, like my car, when I hit Ontario on the driver's side, I bent the seat sideways almost at a 45 degree, the whole bars and everything, and my head went out the window, and that's what broke my helmet. But when I hit the wall,
that's what I'm saying. You tell people that they don't you don't realize the tremendous amount of force that goes on there. And so people don't realize when you say 1,500 Gs, okay, so every 100 pounds that you weigh, that means your body feels like it weighs 150,000 pounds. If you're 200 pounds, that means the forces that are pulling on your body is you are weighing 300,000 pounds. Now that only happens for milliseconds, and that's probably at the limit you can survive. But with all the stuff, like you said, with all the new seats and the padding and the soft walls and everything else, I mean, they've got like 6 inches of impact-absorbing foam in the driver's side and passenger side doors of those cars, along with the soft walls that mitigate the impact of this stuff, where, like you said, even 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, if that same crash would have happened, we probably would have been having a lot different report than we're having today.
Oh, yeah. It would have been different. Like I say, when my car hit the wall, I took that 9-inch wheel, which we had for a long time, a 9-inch wheel, and crushed it to a 6-inch wheel.
Yes.
Now that's a lot of impact that was absorbed in that car.
Yes.
He was hurt. I knew when it went over. I was watching. I knew he was hurt bad, and I'm sure I hope he don't have problems, but he's going to take a while to recover.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not going to be at Las Vegas or next week or Fontana in 2 weeks or a while. Yeah, he's probably on a long road to recovery because.
Well, they're going to announce who's going to drive it at Vegas.
Right.
Probably tomorrow or next day, but.
Right.
That's he took a bad shot. That's probably one of the worst I've ever seen in the door of the driver's side.
Well, yeah, and again, like I said, I mean, it's fortunate that Corey LaJoie hit him while he was in the air. So if he'd have been sitting dead in the track, stopped, and that would have happened again, even with all the safety stuff, we would probably been having a lot different discussion today than what we're having.
The shock would have probably killed him from the impact. Yeah, at least when he went up, he was still flying and moving. So, like I said, when you're moving, it's better to be hit while you're moving. Don't be stopped.
Yes.
You get hurt.
Yes, that's it. And as I say, people have a misconception. Speed does not kill, because if that was the case, every driver in the Indy 500 or Daytona 500 or any other race car would be dead, or all the astronauts would be dead flying at 3,000 miles an hour. It's differential speed. It's that sudden stop that's where you have the problems. As long as you're maintaining the speed, you're okay.
Right. like I say, when you're out there in the racetrack with all the rest of the guys, it seems like you're only doing 60 mile an hour because everybody's going the same speed.
Yes, when
you have no respect. You have no concept of how fast you're going.
Yeah, you do that, and I'm sure everybody's done that. If you've been trucking down the freeway at 100 mile an hour or something, you see the cop and you go down to 55 or 60, you think like you're stopped. Well, that's what again. It's like when you get. It doesn't matter if you're going 100 mile an hour, 150 or 200. Once you get in that zone, it just your world is like slowing down to that pace. So you're concentrating on that. You're not looking, or you're not aware of that you're doing 200 mile an hour until something happens like that, and then it does that. But yeah, you get into that zone and you don't really you're not thinking going around Daytona International Speedway or something thinking I'm doing 200 mile an hour. You're driving the car, you're in that. But yeah, when something happens, it's a rude awakening on that, and that's where we get into trouble.
It all happens in milliseconds.
Yes, so that whole thing. But we're glad that Ryan's doing okay on that, and we're all pulling for him. Like the sign that I put up yesterday and was going all over the net and social media. We're all Ryan Newman fans. Right. Last night, today, and in the future, and we hope that he has a
hope he gets recovered soon.
You got it. Thanks for calling in. Yeah, that was something that again, I didn't have as bad a feeling as like when I saw Earnhardt's hit, but I just I was concerned about that one, just the way it hit and stuff. Not as much as when I saw the replay, because it didn't. When I saw it in real time, it didn't. I didn't realize that Corey LaJoie actually hit him dead in the driver's window and pitched him up on there. And when I saw that gave me and a lot of others pause for concern on that, because we all do know. And, ultimately, like anything else, racing is a dangerous sport. And even though it has gotten much, much safer over the years and all that, but, in any thing like that, when things, when a lot of circumstances go wrong, you can't pay the ultimate price doing that sport. So it's we're glad that we didn't have that report on the Daytona 500 this year, and that coming forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit before we bring John COUPAL, as soon as I can open up my email on that. Gallup does a poll every year about just the general way their folks are thinking of that, politics, how they feel about stuff, things. But it's very interesting on some of that of how how things have changed. And you get all this like the systemic racism, and the whole we're just our world falls apart. And we addressed a little bit of that. President's been saying off-color, candid conversations like that, like Lyndon Johnson talking about his pants didn't have enough room for his nuts down there. Can you give me a little room? And Harry Truman threatened to beat the crap out of some guy that wrote a not-so-stellar review of his daughter Margaret's singing abilities and what have you. And like you said, back in the day, that was okay. Well, whatever. Today we have such a contention about this stuff on that. But, it's very telling a lot of times on what's going on, because we have this angst. It seems like we have this angst amongst everybody each and every day of, Trump said this, or this is going on, or blah, da, 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 da. We just seem to be arguing about this stuff, or like I say, people crawl. Trump says something, tweets something, and people crawl in the fetal position or something, and he said, no, my world's going to fall apart, and blah, da, 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 da. When you think about what people's attitudes are and everything, we've changed a lot, and a lot of that stuff is way off the beaten path. I mean, you won't believe some of the turnarounds and some of this stuff. But one of the things, and probably why in the Democratic debate, and Bloomberg's going to be in this one, I think, in Nevada tonight. But one of the things that was really shocking is how people are not really responding to socialism. So this is the poll. So in 1959, the Gallup poll said 38% of the people would vote for a black person for president. In 2020, it's 96%. Let's see, Catholic, 67%, 96. Jewish, 63% and 59. Now it's 94. A woman, 54%, now it's 93%. So all this stuff, and it goes on of all these. So all these stereotypes that are, but it isn't, and they didn't do, they started this only last year, they didn't do it. Socialist was 47, now it's down to 45. So you probably see in the Democratic Party why they're having such angst about Bernie Sanders and the socialists. Well, he may be getting a lot of play in that community that is a socialist crowd, or every free. It is not selling across the United States of America, on that. And even breaking down Republican, Independent, Democrat, would vote for president. Republicans, black, 91%. 97% independent, 99% Democrat. So I mean, it's 90s above all across any party line. Hispanic, 90, 94, 99. Jewish, evangelical. Now this gets to be a little one, or the one where the percentage is down, but it is climbing. Atheist was down to 41% of Republicans, 68 independent, 69 Democrat. Gay or lesbian is 62% Republican, 82% independent, 89% Democrat. So you can see as we're moving that across the board on this stuff. I mean, most of the, when people start shouting racism or America's a systemic racist or racist country, could be nothing from the truth. People are not considering that all across most of the board. So where do they come up with this stuff? They're coming up, as Mason Weaver and a lot of them say, they're coming up to control you, to put you into the box of what they're talking about. And, this is the kryptonite that should be blowing apart all this conversation that we've been having about all this stuff. But we still keep talking about the same stuff, or the same, they try to spin it or say that. Again, I guess they're just going off the theory that if you repeat a lie long enough,
30 seconds,
it becomes the truth. And they really, and in some cases, it really is, because you go across this stuff and they keep repeating this stuff. So when we tell you this stuff and we bring you the facts, and like on the bonds, there is no need.
Hey, here we go, guys.
Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today. IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET.
There's that music again, which means that we're rolling into KMET 1490 as we do every Monday through Friday at 5:30 to 6 on the Mighty Net. Each and every day. I just love saying that because, man, that's when it was KMET, the FM station back down in L.A., when Fraser Smith and all those guys were playing the rock and roll of that, and that's what they used to call it on that. So the call letters still live on. We're still very proud to broadcast on that, with Sean doing the engineering, sending out our signal over KMET, and Jesse pushing all the buttons and getting us on that, which will be getting us John COUPAL coming up here pretty soon to give us an update on Prop 13, the 2020 imposter. We've done that, and we're finally, hopefully, going to get Jack BECKMAN on, Funny Car winner from the Pomona Finals. We just had Pop called in with a Ryan Newman update. They said he's still in serious condition, non-life-threatening injuries. He's talking that he's going to have a long recovery, obviously, but we all wish him well. And as we say, we're all Ryan Newman fans, yesterday, today, and in the future, because there's probably not another hard-nosed racer like that out there. But like one of the drivers said, there's probably nobody that's not had a problem with Ryan Newman, but we're all Ryan Newman fans today, and we wish him a speedy recovery. So, without further ado, we're about ready to bring him in. The president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, the leading and probably one of the only last organizations that is out there fighting for you, the California resident, to help keep you from getting buried from all the onerous taxation and stupid some laws that come in. But the big one is the imposter Proposition 13 that's going to be on the ballot, I think March 3rd coming up, the onerous $15 billion school bond, and his latest opinion column that's running all over Southern California News Group is about this. John COUPAL, welcome back to the show.
It's always a pleasure, Roy. How you doing?
So, voting has started in California on this, and there's probably no more important proposition, the Proposition 13 that's on the 2020 ballot, just like back in 1978, the most important proposition that was on that ballot was Prop 13 on that, which has saved countless millions their homes and the ability to live in them as every family should. But tell us about what's really bad about this Prop 13 that's on the ballot November 3rd,
well,
2020.
Roy, you're absolutely right. The Prop 13 that's on the ballot in this coming March is in a couple of weeks, and voting has already started, given California's very lax voting laws, as we well know. But it is fortuitous that 13 came up in the queue. We ended the last election cycle with 12. 13 happened to come in. We have argued for years that the number 13 should be retired just because it's causing confusion. And because this Prop 13 that's on the March ballot does in fact have an impact on property owners and property taxation, the probability of confusion is even heightened. Here's the deal. Prop 13 from 1978, as you know, reduced property taxes, has saved countless Californians from being taxed out of their homes. This particular Proposition 13 is a $15 billion statewide school bond. The interest cost over 35 years will be $12 billion. So that's $12 billion that will not find its way into the classroom. So the people who will be getting, who benefit from this, I would argue that the kids who are saddled with additional debt will not be benefited. Certainly the Wall Street bond brokers, the bond industry, the bond counsel, bond underwriters, they will do quite well. And the real problem with this particular proposal causes us the biggest concern is the fact that it lifts the local debt caps for local school bonds. So when a local school district wants to float a bond or build a school, it wants to apply for matching funds from the state. In order to get matching funds, they have to propose their own bond measure. So we have a hit on the statewide taxpayers because of going into debt and the interest costs. And then at the local level, homeowners and other property owners are now at risk of significantly higher property taxes because they are lifting the current debt caps that exist for local school bonds. So we urge your listeners, Roy, to read the ballot pamphlet very carefully, read the arguments pro and con. I think they will find our arguments against to be very enlightening, because the other side obviously is not talking about the impact for local property owners.
Maybe, and this just flashed into my head, are they lifting the $60 per $100,000 in assessed value off the properties or something?
Yeah, it's right now, it was 1.25 per 100,000 was the limit, and they want to increase it to 2. That's for a single school district. Unified school districts, I believe, are even higher. So those debt caps will be raised significantly. So that is the concern. And here's the other concern. If we still had the 2/3 vote requirement for local bonds, which we do for most other bonds, but for school districts, for school bonds, if you recall back in the yesteryear of the year 2000, they lowered the two-thirds vote from two-thirds to 55% for local school bonds, which means almost all these bonds pass because you've got all the special interests out there campaigning for them. So a lot of voters don't even know that there's a local school bond on the ballot, and when they read it, it says, "Oh, this is going to cost you pennies a day," or something like that, and they go, "Yeah, well, I like kids, so I'll vote for that." So it's very deceptive. There's a lot of deception going on, but the thing I do think your listeners should bear in mind is that when they see this Proposition 13 on the March ballot, think increased property taxes. It may be a statewide bond, and it's bad policy at the state level. It's even worse policy at the local level.
See, in our area in the Inland Empire, we're almost getting some of our listeners are getting hit 3 times. Along with Prop 13, we have a Measure A, which is the Riverside City College Communities, which is putting a $715 million bond on for that. Plus, Val Verde and a couple of others and a couple over in San Bernardino are putting these local school bonds on. So some of us in this Inland Empire region are going to be hit with 2 to 3 times the request from bonds. And I just want to run this, and this is what really is, I think, accentuates the problem. At Moreno Valley Unified School District at the last board meeting, the superintendent said, "Oh, we have this Prop 13 coming. We want to put it before you to have a discussion to see if you want to support it." Eddie, that was basically it. And the board members, with the discussion was really short, took about a minute. "Oh, it's for the kids." All 5 of them voted 5-0 to support it. No discussion like this. What it's changing, what it is. Not that we got a $22 billion surplus up at Sacramento and they could pay for this in cash. No, nothing. Just, oh, it's for the kids. Stamp it on. Put it on the taxes. Go for it.
Yeah, and that's another argument against it. We're not saying that all of the $22 billion surplus should be spent all at once. These projects are not, as they call them, shovel ready.
Right.
But dedicating $2 billion a year to take care of the most critical needs, and by the way, the most critical needs, what they're talking about is seismic safety and asbestos removal and cleaning up the bad water. Well, they've been talking about this for years. If you haven't taken care of the asbestos after 30 years about talking about it, then you simply haven't made it a priority. But they always use these scary scenarios when in fact a lot of it's going to build infrastructure that I like high school sports stadiums and stuff like that, and administration buildings. I understand you need those, but follow the money. And you just touched on something, Roy, and that is, I think somebody just did a review, and I may have this number wrong, but I believe statewide there are like 235 local bond and partial tax proposals on the ballot. So that there's a lot of taxation being proposed out there.
Yeah, well, we got like 58 counties, so that means there's at least just an average of 4 in every county in the state of California, which is which is ridiculous. I mean, it's like
it is.
And if this prop, I didn't even know that part of, like, they're trying to jack the assessment, qualifications up on this stuff. This is even. Again, I mean, I guess you're the bearer of just absolutely sunny news today on that. But, I mean, it is, and it's really, and I don't know what, if people really want to, why, one of the frustrations I have, they want to get woke. Why aren't they getting woke about this?
Yeah, and I don't want to be completely depressing, because the reality is, I think if the word gets out on this, the polling was not particularly strong. So I think it's possible that the voters, notwithstanding the fact that we will be outgunned, might actually look at this. And I've even heard from longtime progressives and Democrats saying, I like schools and I'm pro-education, but how much is too much? I mean, when people who are Democrats start asking that question, it tells me we've got a shot at turning the tide a little bit.
You got about 30 seconds left. Tell them why they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Sure. California's largest taxpayer advocacy organization. Go to our website at hjta.org, and it's our dues are $15 a year, and we get no government support. We're supported only by California taxpayers, and we need more members to keep our fight alive.
Thanks for being on, and I learned something every time you come on the show. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Roy. Take care.
You got it.
Bye.
There's an update on that. I didn't even know that they were doing that. Oh man, if this thing passes, the local, not only on top of that, they're going to double down on this stuff. On this, you're going to be that's even incredible. So that is even more. Tell everybody, like they say in Chicago, vote early and vote often, and please don't do anything illegal. But it is imperative, get all your friends and neighbors, inform them of what's going on, because if Prop 13 passes in 2020, it's going to touch off a tax increase that you won't believe. But we finally got him, I think, on board. We were trying to get him last week after he had a very successful tenure out at the Winter Nationals out at Auto Club drag strip out in Pomona. He's one of the top drag racers racing in funny car on that. And I think probably the best, or one of the best pro races. That was the funny car final, because he went up against the legend John Force and knocked him out on a almost a side-by-side drag race on that. But what was really impressive about that was it was a repeat of the World Finals. You had Jed Coughlin winning in Pro Stock, Doug Coletta winning in Top Fuel, and Jack Beckman, who is our guest, who won Funny Car back in 2019 at the World Finals of Pomona, and all three of them repeated in that. Have you ever seen that happen, Jack?
I think they said that was the first time in history, which is interesting because, the Winter Nationals have been going on since 1965. The finals have been going on since 61 for the Winter Nationals, 65 for the finals,
right.
And then the finals moved to Pomona in 83 after Orange County closed. So that's a whole lot of opportunities, and it's kind of surprising it hadn't happened before.
Yeah, that was a pretty good feat, but I mean, what was there? That was actually my first time of being behind in the press area, right behind where you guys start, and that's a really unique, because when you see them, if you see them on TV, or even if you're sitting in the stands, you don't see how squirrely you guys are going down that 1,000-foot strip.
Yeah, from the grandstands, the runs all look relatively straight, and if it doesn't look straight from the stands, that car's moving around way too much. But from behind the race car, you're exactly right. You really get an idea of how much lateral real estate we take up, unless it's a perfect run. And the reality is there's very few runs that those cars are on rails.
Yes, it is, and I mean that was. Didn't you win that on on the final at Pomona? Did you win that on a hole shot?
Well, listen, everything with the hole shot's got to be taken with an asterisk, because stage position affects that. No, I didn't. In fact,
okay.
the numbers are going to show that John Force had a better reaction time than me, but I think my right foot moved first. I think if you look at when the injectors open. My 81 light was still better than his 65 light, simply because he rolled in a bunch. And then our 383 beat his 389, but if he had stayed shallower,
right.
He likely would have run a 385. It was a great drag race.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely awesome for the fans to see that sort of side-by-side race in the final, and our team actually was able to set low ET the entire weekend with our Infinite Hero Dodge, and a lot of times it's unique to see that happen in the final round.
Yeah, it is, and bottom line, it really doesn't matter. It's that guy who gets to that finish line first.
Sure, and in the final round, listen, I shallow stage because I'm in it to win the war, not just the battle. ET determines lane choice for each round, but in the final round, there's no lane choice for the next round, so it doesn't matter if you roll in deep or not. I don't blame John one bit. He doesn't have 151 national wins by accident.
And I know a win's a win, but does it even make it a little sweeter that when you actually beat a guy like a legendary guy like John Force, who's been around the stuff longer than dirt?
No, let's not downplay it. It makes it a hell of a lot sweeter. Yes. No, there's no question, and I apologize. We were going to do this interview last week.
Right. No,
I'm still, this damn cold won't go away.
I know, yeah, I can still hear you. Still got a scratchy little voice,
Yeah, so your fans that think that I've got an auctioneer's voice, no. It's just, I'm sipping hot tea right now just to get through the interview. But, no, you think about it. John Force, there's really not an analog in any other type of sport. In NASCAR, there have been competitors that have had some gray hair, not so much anymore. But
yeah,
the only analogy is that you get a chance to go up there and pitch against Babe Ruth, and you're a former little leaguer, and he's been playing for the Yankees for the last 8 years. John Force is almost 71 years old and still one of the best out there. To get a chance to race against him is awesome. To get a chance to beat him and do it several times like I have, and plus the fact that I'm a huge historian of the sport, this isn't lost on me. This is, I don't want to say it's life-changing, but it's pretty damn cool. For a kid that grew up in Southern California to get a chance to race and beat John Force, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but I mean, that, like you said, that's the oldest drag race that's still running in California. Winter Nationals for 60 years, been going on since 61. Southern California drag strip, two Southern California boys, Jack Beckman, John Force, meet up in the final. I mean, milliseconds at the end finish line. I mean, that's just like it. That was probably, to me, that was the best drag race of the whole weekend out there.
Hands down. I totally agree. And I come home and I look at my trophy case, and I had a good sportsman career, and for 20 years that's all I did is race a sportsman car. I worked a regular job. All my overtime went into my own race car. All my vacation days were spent at a racetrack, and now for 14 years I've been getting a paycheck to drive a nitro funny car for Don Schumacher, and I've got 31 trophies on my shelf. It's amazing. It's never in my wildest dreams did I think it would be this good. And I think that makes a pretty good career with 31 wins. John Force has 120 more wins than me. The man is beyond a legend.
No doubt about that. I mean, he's that, and not only just as a driver, but keeping all the teams that he's doing and that. And he started out just like you did on a ragtag budget. Probably shouldn't have even been in the sport. Everybody told him he was crazy. You shouldn't be doing this, but he stuck with it and became probably, I mean, I don't want to necessarily boot him out of the Don Garlits as being that, but I mean, those two guys got to be 1 and 1A, all-time legends.
Yeah, we have 5 greatest of all time simply because we have different categories. How can you take anything away from what Bob Glidden or Warren Johnson did in Pro Stock? Don Garlits was the man in Top Fuel. John Force is the man in Funny Car. But you know what? Don Prudhomme was the man in both. Kenny Bernstein was the man in both. So they're all absolutely at the top. But the fact that John Force is continuing to do it into his 70s, continuing to win, and his car with Robert Height won the Funny Car Championship last year, you'll never be able to vote against him as the greatest of all time. There are others that are equally great, and I'm a huge Don Garlits fan, old number 204 from Ocala, Florida.
You got it. I mean, there's back in, and I used to race sprint cars back in the day of that. But I'll tell you what, just to say this, there's 3 racers, myself, Jack Beckman, and the late Junior Johnson. You know what we all have in common?
What's that?
We were all born on June 28th.
No kidding. Did not know that fact. And, I told you I'm a big fan of the sport.
Yes.
Literally earlier today, I drove over to a gentleman's house. Rod McCarroll used to race Junior Fuel with his brothers, and Fred Crow of the Fred Crow goes way back, worked for Mickey Thompson, Ram Simpson. And I am going to become the caretaker. I don't want to say Rod's giving to me because I think at this point I'm just the caretaker. He has got every drag news ever printed from 1955 to 1978. And it's just an honor to me that people know that I'm this big a fan and historian of the sport, that I can help preserve some of our history. And the fact that I get to go out there and race, and the fact that Chris Karamessinas and I know each other, that Roland Leon calls me, that Tommy Ivo and I have hung out, these are just pinch-me moments for a 7-year-old kid that went to Orange County Raceway in 1973 and was hooked on the sport instantly.
Yeah, it is. And like I say, there's I've said this many, many times. There's no addiction. You can take drugs or alcohol or sex or anything else. There's no addiction like the racing addiction, because there's no way that ever. I don't care, as long as you're on the top side of the grass. Your body might tell you that you can't do it, but in your mind you think you can go out there on that track anytime and do that stuff. It's just like you're saying with the sport, and it's absolutely awesome. And people don't. A lot of times people, I don't think if ones that are involved in the sport a lot, they don't understand the passion guys like you have for the sport of that. And I think it's absolutely awesome that you got all those drag and news deals in that. And it's got to, like I say, that's quite an honor that they entrusted you with those.
Yeah, I've been asked many times what's my greatest accomplishment in drag racing, and it's really an easy answer, and it's that these legends even know my name. That I can pick up the phone and call Don Garlitz, and I'm going to be inducting Bones Ballou into the Drag Race Hall of Fame in March out at Garlitz's deal. I did that for Frank Hawley. I did it for Gary Densham. I did it for Harada Hobbs and Vodnik. I did it for Gas Ronda. I took Gas Ronda's ashes in my car with me on a run. I mean, think about this. If you're a kid playing Little League, how many of those all-time heroes will you have a chance to rub shoulders with?
Yeah.
You're not going to have met Garrigan Ruth and Honus Wagner and Ty Cobb, because that sport had been around so long that they were into their 7th and 8th generation of players. Drag racing really is about into its 4th or 5th generation, and a few of the first generation guys are still around. I went to a function 2 weeks ago, and Ed Iskandarian was at dinner with us. He's 98 years old.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's on his way to 100 and probably plus.
But, you appreciate this. You don't have to know who Babe Ruth is to be a great baseball player, but to be a historian of baseball, to be somebody who truly honors every aspect of it, you have to understand where it came from. And I'm looking forward to diving into these drag news from 1955 to fill in a lot of the empty spaces in my history and memory of drag racing.
Yeah, you got it. You're absolutely great interview. We're going to have you on again, if not before the World Finals on that. Good luck in Arizona on that. Rest your voice. Keep drinking that tea. Put a little honey in there to soothe it down, because heck knows, you might be winning another funny car final coming up.
If I got to keep this cold a little while longer to win Phoenix, so be it.
Hey, you'll do anything to win a race, won't you, Jack?
You got to lay off the antibiotics for a few days. Thanks, man. Looking forward to talking again, too.
You got it. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.
There you go, Jack Beckman, funny car winner out of Pomona. Like you said, that was, and nobody has done that before. All three guys in the top categories of drag racing pro stock that were won the World Finals, and then repeated back in November, and then repeated just last week or 2 Saturdays ago out of Pomona. If you've never been to the drag race, like I said, we're gonna haul Jesse out there in the next one. He's gonna get a nitro burn. If you've never seen those guys run out there at Pomona, it's absolutely fantastic. See them go from 0 to 330 miles an hour in less than 1,000 feet and under 4 seconds is absolutely an awesome sight. And like I say, sitting behind the starting line and watching those guys go down the strip, you don't believe how much those cars move. So especially the funny cars. Top fuel cars are a little bit longer. Funny cars are short. Man, I mean, you just swore Beckman and Force were going to run into each other going that at 300 miles an hour down there. I don't know how they do it. That's got to be an absolutely awesome ride doing that. Oh, that's another fun thing. Glad we finally got him on. We were going to have him on next week, but like he said, he lost his voice. He's just getting recovered on that. But, and you will see that a lot of guys in racing, like he was talking about. I see, there's the excitement of racing and stuff like that, but the people involved in racing and the family aspect and the camaraderie of it like that is nothing. If you've never been in it, it's hard to explain. Just like when Ryan Newman had his crash at Daytona, and everybody said, yeah, tonight, tomorrow, and in the future, we're all Ryan Newman fans, and we're all pulling for him. That's so much that even though every driver out there's probably had issues with Ryan at one time or the other out there, but it is something that if you've never experienced it, you're probably missing out on one of the tightest net. Will help you out in any type of situation going on. We had a absolutely great show today on Taco Tuesday on that going on. We've had fun. Talked to John COUPAL earlier on that. Talked about Ryan Newman with Pop on that, and laid out a little bit of the stuff and blowing a little bit of the paradigms of what's going on. So we'll be back on Wicked Wednesday tomorrow. Hopefully Stephanie will be in, and we'll do this all over again live at 5. See ya.